If you are a thoughtful parent, if you've read the books, if you understand nervous system regulation, if you meditate, if you practice mindfulness, if you care deeply about attachment, connection, emotional safety, and not repeating the patterns that you grew up with, and your child is still anxious, I want to talk to you specifically today. Because one of the most painful places to be as a parent is this: I know so much, I'm trying so hard, I'm doing everything I've been taught to do. Why is my child still struggling with anxiety? And maybe even more painfully, am I somehow making this worse? Because you're not the parent who's dismissing your child's feelings. You're not saying, stop crying, there's nothing to be afraid of, just get over it. You're probably doing the opposite. You're sitting with your child, you're validating them, you're slowing down the moment, you're naming what they're feeling, you're reminding yourself to regulate before you react. You may even be saying things like, I can see this is really hard. I'm right here. It makes sense that you feel nervous. You don't have to stop feeling this way for me to love you. And all of that is important and it matters. It really does. But then sometimes something confusing happens. Your child is still anxious. And the same fear comes back tomorrow and then the next day, or it shows up somewhere else in another area of your life. Maybe it starts with bedtime separation anxiety, then it transfers to school, then separation in other areas, then social situations, then needing more reassurance. They need you nearby. They want to avoid something. Then they get angry when plans change. And suddenly you start wondering, why isn't all of this connection and mindfulness actually making the anxiety go away? And that's where I want to spend some time today. Because I think this is a very important distinction that a lot of very conscious, thoughtful parents are missing. And once you see this, a lot of things begin to make more sense. So hear me out. The parent who already knows what to do, I want you to imagine this parent, right? Let's just call her Sarah, for example. Sarah is not new to this peaceful parenting, conscious parenting approach. She's read parenting books. She follows mindful parenting accounts. She probably knows what co regulation means. She knows that behavior is communication. She knows that emotions aren't bad. She knows that fear doesn't need to be punished or shamed. And when her child is anxious, she tries really hard to be the safe person for her child. Let's say her child gets anxious at bedtime. He doesn't want her to leave, so she stays. And she tells herself, he needs connection. He needs to feel safe. I don't want him to feel abandoned. And eventually he calms down. So she thinks, okay, that helped. And in one sense, it did. He did feel calmer that night. Then maybe the next night he needs her again and again. And maybe he doesn't want to go to a friend's house unless she stays. And she understands that too, so she stays. And maybe there is a field trip or a new activity or something special, and he says he can't do it. And she doesn't want to push too hard because she knows coercion is not connection. She knows forcing can backfire. She knows she wants to respect his nervous system capacity, so she backs off. Again, everything she's doing from a place of love, from awareness, from a deep commitment to emotional safety. And yet, the child's worry may still be getting smaller. Their world is getting smaller. So, this is the paradox. The problem isn't that these parents know too little. I think many mindful parents actually do not have a knowledge problem, they have a calibration problem. They already understand the importance of regulation. They already understand the importance of connection. They already know how to validate. They often, what they often don't know is what comes next. This is the moment that gets really confusing. So you regulate yourself, you connect, you validate, you say, I know this is scary. And your child says, I still don't want to go. And now what? Do you let them stay home? Do you encourage them? Do you push? Do you wait? Do you stay with the emotion longer? Do you hold the boundary? Do you offer more support? Do you back away? This is where a lot of conscious parents freeze because they know two things very clearly. They don't want to abandon their child, and they don't want to overpower their child, but they also don't want anxiety to run the family. And this is a very uncomfortable middle ground between those things. The middle ground is where this real work is, and why mindfulness alone may not solve the problem. Mindfulness is incredibly valuable. Connection is incredibly valuable. Validation is incredibly valuable. But none of those things automatically create confidence. They create conditions that can support confidence, but they are not the same thing. And this is where the subtle trap can happen. When a child is anxious, everyone naturally wants the anxiety to calm down. The child wants relief, the parent wants relief, the whole house wants relief. So we can start unconsciously using one measure of success. Did my child calm down? And if they calm down, we think, oh, good, that worked. But here's another question that matters too. What did my child learn about themselves in that moment? Did they learn I can handle hard things? Or did they learn I'm okay only when this feeling stops? That distinction matters because calm and confidence are not the same thing. This is one of the biggest ideas I want parents to understand. Calm isn't always the goal, confidence is also. And that doesn't mean calm is bad. It doesn't mean soothing is bad. It does not mean regulation is bad. It means calm cannot be the only marker we use to decide whether something is helping. Because a child can become very skilled at calming down and still believe, I cannot handle discomfort. And what we ultimately want is a child who can say, I'm anxious, I'm uncomfortable, I'm not sure how this is going to go, and I can still handle this. That's a very different kind of strength. The pain point for conscious parents, I think, this is where the pain lives for many of us, myself included. You are already doing so much right. And because you care so much about attachment and connection, you may be especially sensitive to your child's distress. You notice everything. You notice when their face changes. You notice when their body tightens. You notice when they shut down. And you notice when they get overwhelmed. And because you're attuned, you may immediately think, this is too much. I need to help. I need to protect the connection. I don't want to rupture trust. I don't want them to feel alone in this. All of that sensitivity is valuable. But sometimes our fear of causing distress can make us afraid of letting our child experience distress at all. And those are not the same thing. A child can be uncomfortable and still be emotionally safe. A child can be scared and still be connected to you. A child can struggle and still feel deeply supported. A child can even be unhappy with your decision and still be securely attached. That is where I think a lot of very conscientious parents need support, not in learning how to care, you already care, not in learning how to validate, you already know how to do that. The support you need is in learning how to stay connected without making the disappearance of discomfort the only goal. Connection and challenge are not opposites. I want to say that again. Connection and challenge are not opposites. You don't have to choose between I'm a connected parent and I help my child grow. You can do both. And this is where things become more nuanced because your child can feel my parent sees me. My parent understands this is hard. My parent is not shaming me. My parent is still with me. And at the same time, your child can gradually begin to discover I may be capable of more than I think. And that's different from saying you're fine. And it's different from saying, okay, then you never have to do it. This is where parents get stuck in the gray zone. This is the part that quick parenting advice usually skips. People say, validate, okay, then what? Don't accommodate, okay. But what does that actually mean in a family? Don't push, okay. Then what do I do when my teenager refuses to leave the house? Respect their nervous system, of course. But how do I know when something is truly outside their capacity versus the anxiety is narrowing their world? And this is the gray zone. The gray zone is where parents need judgment, not slogans, not one size fits all advice, but judgment and discernment. Because the right response depends on the child. It depends on their age, their temperament, their history, their current level of distress. How long has this pattern been happening? How much family life has already adjusted around it? And how much support or challenge they actually need. This is why parenting anxious kids can feel so hard, even when you understand so much. Regulation is a resource, not always the finish line. And this is another distinction I think is especially important for parents who are very familiar with mindfulness. We often think, first, I need to get my child to calm down. And sometimes calming is exactly what's needed. But over time, we want our children to know I don't always have to feel perfectly calm in order to move through life. Sometimes a child may still feel nervous, still feel uncertain, still feel uncomfortable, and yet begin to discover I can stay connected to myself while something hard is happening. That's a different goal from simply making anxiety disappear. And that is why I like to think of regulation as a resource, not necessarily the finish line. And the parents' anxiety, our own anxiety about our kids, is part of the picture too. And here's another layer. Many parents who are drawn to mindfulness have their own history with anxiety. I know I do. We know what it feels like to be overwhelmed. We know what it feels like to feel misunderstood. We may have grown up with adults who told us, you're overreacting, you're too sensitive, just get over it. And so maybe you've worked really hard to do something different with your own children, like I have. And sometimes that creates a very understandable overcorrection. You might think, I will make sure that my children never feel the way that I felt. And so when your child struggles, you move quickly toward comfort, toward relief, toward protection. And that makes sense. But then this question becomes really important. Am I protecting my child from harm, or am I protecting my child from discomfort? And those are not always the same thing. And again, this is not about becoming harsher, and it's about becoming more precise, more discerning, more grounded. The real pain point is, what do I do after I validate? And this may be the question that sums up the whole problem. What do I do after I validate my child's emotions and experience? Because many of you already know the first part. You already know how to say, I hear you. I know this is hard. I'm with you. But then what? And that's where confidence building becomes more nuanced. This is where parents start wondering, am I supporting or rescuing? Am I encouraging or pressuring? Am I respecting a limit or letting anxiety set the limit? Am I helping my child regulate or accidentally teaching them that they cannot function unless they feel calm first? So these are not beginner parenting questions. These are advanced parenting questions. And that's why this work can feel really hard, even when you have years of knowledge and practice behind you. And the question I want you to start asking, if you take nothing else from today's episode, I want you to hold on to this question. When your child is anxious, don't only ask, how can I help them feel better? Also ask, what is my child learning about what they can handle? And that question changes the lens. It doesn't tell you exactly what to do, and that's intentional because what you do next depends on the situation. But it helps you begin to notice the difference between short term relief and long term confidence. And that distinction is at the heart of the work I'm doing right now. So, we have an upcoming free workshop on From Anxiety to Confidence. And if this episode is speaking directly to you, if you're the parent who already understands mindfulness, if you already know how to validate, if you care deeply about connection and you still find yourself wondering, why is my child still so anxious? Then I want to invite you to join me and Dr. Christopher Willard for a free live workshop called From Anxiety to Confidence. This workshop is specifically for parents who want to understand what is happening underneath these anxiety patterns and why some of the things that help in the moment do not always build confidence over time. We are going to talk about the hidden ways anxiety can show up and why the same fear can keep coming back in different forms. Why family life can begin slowly revolving around anxiety without anyone intending for that to happen. Why very mindful, connected parents can still feel completely stuck. And why the real goal is not raising a child who never feels anxious. The goal is helping your child develop the deeper belief I can handle hard things. So, we're not going to tell you to stop being supportive. We're not going to tell you to force your child through fear. And we're not going to tell you that all of the connection and mindfulness work you have already done is wrong. Quite the opposite. We want to show you what comes next because connection matters, regulation matters, mindfulness matters. But here's another layer. There is the question of how does my child actually build confidence from here? And this is exactly what we're going to explore together. So you can register for this free webinar coming up on September 10th at delightinparenting.com/anxiety. Again, delightinparenting.com/anxiety. And when you register, you'll also receive the free Anxiety Pattern Finder, which is a quick parent check-in designed to help you notice where anxiety may already be showing up in your home in ways that don't always look like fear. I would really love to have you with us. And I especially want to say that this is to the parents listening who feel like, I should know how to do this by now. The problem may not be that you need more information. You may need help with the gray zone. You may need help knowing how to apply what you already know when anxiety is involved. And that's exactly where we're going next. So join us for the free webinar From Anxiety to Confidence. And until then, keep asking yourself, am I only helping my child feel better right now? Or am I also helping them discover what they can handle? Because calm is valuable, connection is essential, and confidence is the long-term goal. I hope to see you there.